Okay, in the first lecture we talked a little bit about social media and as well as e-professionalism, and so we're going to shift gears a little bit and start taking e-professionalism and applying it to your pharmacy practice and your online persona as well. And you guys know all year long I've been having you conduct SWOT analysis, and I know you're probably getting tired of it, but we're going to talk about a SWOT analysis in terms of using social media for a pharmacist or for a pharmacy. So first, let's talk about the online persona as a professional. I like to think of it as brand management. So, companies spend millions of dollars, billions of dollars on this. This is something that any company puts that as they build their brand, how do they manage the brand? How do they protect it? How do they how do they make the brand hold its value? An example. Let's just throw any brand out there. For example, like Toyota. Toyota for decades had been considered one of the most reliable, dependable, safest cars on the road. And then a few years ago, Toyota had a bad batch that essentially the brakes weren't functioning properly on a batch of Toyota Camrys, and it led to a few deaths, and it was a major deal, and that really hit Toyota pretty hard at the time, and it just kind of goes to show that you can spend an entire career building your brand, and in a blink of an eye, and in an unfortunate situation, it can all go away, or it can really be destroyed. A lot of damage can be done, and so for you, the brand is you. Okay, so think of of yourself, and what is your brand? What is your what do people think of when they think of you? What do they associate that with? They think of a partier, a good student, a slacker, funny guy. What do they think of you? What is your brand? And so when we think of our brand and how we communicate, think of the different contexts that are in our communication. So when you're complaining about a bad day of work to just a friend over the phone versus complaining about a bad day of work to 1,000 friends on a social media page, the context has shifted quite substantially, and so when you're chatting with your friend over the phone, they know you very well. They know that you're not a whiner or something, or they know that you're not just maybe you're just kind of letting off some steam, and they know that you're really a hard worker. However, the people on your Facebook page may not have the same level of connection that you have with that friend that you can talk to over the phone, and they just see you complain about work, and they say, okay, well, he's just griping about a bad day or whatever. So we talked a little bit about having an alias, and there's pros to it and there's cons to it. I think obviously the pro is that it can protect your identity. So yeah, if you want to gripe and complain about work, okay, maybe you should have an alias, an online account that's some bogus angry pharmacist name or whatever. You can just say whatever you want. I mean, you still have the potential to hurt people or do damage, and I don't think that you're removed from that, but maybe it puts a layer of protection to where you can let off steam and maybe not be personally held accountable for it. But personally, I just feel like there's something wrong about it, about making it, just being behind an alias. But there are pros, and the big con is just the decreased accountability. If you're behind an alias, I mean, what's preventing you from just saying whatever you want? In the real world, you don't just stand up in the middle of class and shout some profanities or racist language or whatever, because the people in your class would take offense to it, and something would probably happen. You might get in a fight or whatever. Whereas if you are able to hide behind an alias, you can probably say some pretty mean and nasty things and not be held accountable. Well, so let's go back to the brand management thing and think about, what do people think of you? And when you start to manage your own brand. So what are some basics? What I always find interesting, what happens when you Google your own name? This is such a interesting little exercise, and I think everyone at this point has probably attempted to do this just once to see what happens, and I strongly encourage you guys to Google your own name on a, just like doing a credit check. Okay, I mean, if you're applying for a job, you better Google your own name, because there's a good chance the potential employer has Googled your name to see if anything pops up. So I ran through this exercise before coming to class today, and so I looked at my top things that popped up, and one was the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy website, so that's good because the college has my link to my page on there. That's good. Then my LinkedIn page, so a social media page right away pops up. Then what I thought was interesting, I wrote an article in 2012 on drug pricing, and I was really proud of this article, so I was really happy that popped up there. But that was something that popped up, again, an article from 2012. Good thing it wasn't something, I don't know, if it was something really bad, that may be a bad thing. I don't think that article was too bad. Then the fourth thing that popped up was a guest blog post. So actually, this gentleman named Jason that runs the honestapothecary.com blog, he had me back in June write an article that is a little controversial. It's talking about the business of pharmacy school. So what's interesting is that two of my top 4 links when I Google my name pull up things that I've written, and so one from 2012. What if my opinions have changed over a few years? I mean, these things still live, and they will stay with you. Well, so now how do we build the brand? And thinking about, and I'll walk through myself. I'll throw myself out there as the example, as not the example, as an example of how to, and again, I can kind of share with you what I hope I can build for myself as a brand, and I know that at any point in time I can do something stupid and ruin it. So how do I manage it? So the first thing that popped up on Google was my faculty webpage. So some faculty members don't put a lot of time into their webpage. Me, however, I mean I put quite a bit into it. Let me see if I can pull up my little red ink pen, or we'll use a highlighter. I think it was important, to talk about, like, I don't know if you see here when I put my University of Kentucky College of Pharmacy, that's actually a hyperlink. Not everyone does that. I think it's a big thing that when you're posting a blog or posting something, hyperlink it. These additional hyperlinks actually help the Google web crawlers do all their things. Anyway, I just find that interesting. And it talks about I put a lot of time into writing my bio because again, this is the very first thing that pops up about me in Google. So I want this to look good. Another thing, and let's go forward. Now, so check this out. So my LinkedIn page, once the University of Maryland had me take this picture, this little picture here, for my faculty page, I went ahead and asked for a copy of it so I could put it on LinkedIn. So same photo, again, kind of building a brand. I look a little older than I did a few years ago, but that's okay. As my hairline recedes a little bit, I thought it was a good picture and a professional picture, and that's what I wanted to put on LinkedIn. I don't want to put a picture of me at a UK game, as my LinkedIn profile, even though at one time I think I did have that, but just shows how it changes over a year. Now, again, think about what's my summary on LinkedIn. I'm a faculty member within, and you start seeing it starts looking a little similar, like how things come across. You want it to be consistent. And again, this is the building the brand. So if I was to think of myself, Joey Mattingly, as a trademark, and again, that's kind of important. So you guys know that. So I go by Joey. and you see on this website they have me as Joey and Joey. That's not my full name. My full name is Todd Joseph Mattingly II. It drives me crazy to have that, I've always been Joey. Joey's what I answer to, and I've made it an effort to, my email addresses, everything that I've posted, you see Joey. It's part of what I've try to build as my brand. My father, his name is Todd, and he will always be Todd to me, and I'll always be Joey. So it makes it kind of tough when I'm publishing papers because my initials are TJ, and so not a lot of people know who that is. But again, it's just a piece of building the brand. So what about my blog? So here's an example. So when I talk about my blog, now I actually used a slightly different picture because for my blog I wanted it to be a little more personal, so it's not like too formal. It's a little more fun. Obviously I have to have blue in there because you guys know I'm a big Kentucky fan, so that comes with it. And then this is you see again you see the same thing. I'm a PharmD MBA, assistant professor, University of Maryland School of Pharmacy. And this is, through my blog, you see the same kind of things. I talk about managing retail and long-term care pharmacy chains, blah, 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 all these same things. So you start seeing the consistency. And so regardless of what I'm talking about, so in this particular post, I was talking about politics of healthcare and supplement. And you guys have already seen my lecture on some laws. I like to relate it to the history of it, and so that was just what that article was. But again, it's kind of trying to be consistent. So I still go by Joey. I say I can be followed, and again you can see me at Joey Mattingly on Twitter as well. So again, just still trying to maintain some consistency. Now what about personal sites? Okay, so again, you start thinking, whoa, this is my professional brand, and this is my personal life, man. That's separate. Well, so when you find me on Twitter, again, you see me. I'm at Joey Mattingly. I've got, and you can see a little more fun stuff. So now, how many times have I talked about the University of Kentucky Wildcats since I've been your teacher? So obviously I have a picture of a big basketball shot from last year's tournament as my background. I love chive, and so I like the little keep calm, chive on slogan. I found this little image that I thought was kind of funny. So anyway, that's how it's now. It's a little personal, a little more personal. But I'll talk a little bit more about it. Well, what about my Facebook? Same kind of thing. You'll see, where I went to school. You'll see more personal stuff, like my best friend and my sister's, or my wife's sister, and then my wife. Some wedding photos or whatever. You also see, I should have paid attention to this when I popped up. Talked about putting in a long day at the office because I have to focus on basketball tomorrow, and us beating Kansas in basketball, so it's kind of a big thing. Now, one thing you'll see, for me, because these are personal accounts, or I consider them personal accounts. That I used to be under the impression that a personal account was strictly personal. Well, through working with social media in a long enough time, I realized that it's not that way. That it really, you still have hundreds of people looking at these sites, and maybe more than that. And so I realized that even though these are my personal accounts, what I say on this little feed, so what I say, what my tweets are, these 1,736 tweets. I actually set up a little app that will go back and delete my tweets, because I have tweets from 3-4 years ago that I was like, I don't need these to be on there anymore. So this used to say like 5,000 or 6,000, and now it's down to like, I got a little app, like I said, that kind of deletes tweets for me. Same with like my Facebook post. Even though if my boss and I aren't friends on Facebook, who's to say that someone that I am friends with on Facebook doesn't, print this out and say, make a, if I said something bad about my job, how can that come back and affect this person? Again, Joey Mattingly. So this is part of my brand. If I tweet out something and it comes from Joey Mattingly, I don't care if it's a personal account. And my employer is not going to care that it's a personal account. I mean, in most cases, your employer, while they may say they may respect your privacy to an extent, if there are people publicly who can follow you, and if you can say something that can damage the brand of the company you work for, then they most certainly will take it in consideration. And I guess that leads us to our next question. So, can your personal social media account impact your brand as a professional? And I hope that I was very clear with that. Is that yes. And if I ask this as a true/false question, please tell me you're going to say true on this. This is a very important thing. I know that you're going to say, well, this is my personal account. It's none of your business. While I may, in theory, agree with you, I have to say, as your professor, I hope you guys understand that your personal account and what you say on personal through personal communication, that those things can still be held against you, so to speak. Maybe not in a court of law, maybe so in a court of law, but at the end of the day, what does it do to your own brand? What do people think of you? And again, if you think about it from social media versus just a regular, say you're at a bar with your friends. If you're at a bar with friends and you make a really ugly, racist comment, your friends may think of you as a racist. Okay? If you go on your Facebook account to your social media friends and make a racist joke, people may also think of you as a racist. I mean, I don't think that it changes. Yeah, it was a joke, or yeah, it's your personal opinion, or whatever. It shouldn't affect you, whatever. That the difference is that while you may say something verbally in front of your friends or in front of somebody, in front of one or two people, if no one writes it down or records it or whatever, it kind of can be, I guess it can kind of go away. No one, maybe it'll be forgotten and no one will focus on it, or you get a chance to explain yourself. With social media, because it's searchable, replicable, taken out of context, you may make a joke or say something and whatever again, maybe it's something you made a stance on. You once were for abortion and against abortion, or whatever it may be. Maybe your political views changed over the years, and then you decide to run for office. Well, they're just going to have all this data. Well, why was your opinion this there, and now your opinion's this? Or you're a flip-flopper? What is it? Whatever. It stays with you forever. And your personal accounts, while we would all like to think that there should be a separation, I really want to stress to you guys that before you graduate, that you go back and treat your personal accounts like your Facebook accounts and your Twitter accounts or whatever you have on a personal note. Treat those, go back, review them like you would your LinkedIn profile, right? So use the same scrutiny. So now let's look at it from a business standpoint. You guys know I'm a business person, and I tend to kind of rationalize everything in this cost-benefit world. So maybe we can switch gears and do this business school exercise a little bit. So again, remember our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what about our strengths? For social media, it's pretty simple to use, right? For the most part, just about anybody can log in and sign up. Low cost. Most of the time it's free. You just gotta maybe deal with advertisements. If maybe the only downside in some cases. it kind of levels the playing field. So instead of you needing to be a part of a big media enterprise, maybe you can, like I said, you can now be the publisher of your own stuff. It helps kind of allow for shared knowledge. I love to use Wikipedia as an example of that, and collecting the knowledge from millions of people to help disseminate, if you will. And again, it really it makes the ease of publication so much greater in terms of, instead of having to go through all these editors, you become the editor, publisher, and everything, and that can be good and bad. But it can be good in the sense of getting it to market, if you will. So some of the weaknesses of social media is that they have unintended audiences. Not just who you meant to send the message to, but now everybody's looking. The amount of control you have over your information. What are the rules of the website? Again, security and privacy. What how does that impact what, who sees what? The integrity of the information. So with that ease of publication, once you make it easier and everybody can publish, well, now not only do you have smart people, and I shouldn't say smart, and you also have smart and dumb people publishing. I shouldn't say it that way, but in a way I kind of am. I mean, in a way now anybody can publish anything, and how much of it is true, and what's the integrity of the information like? And I think another weakness is that there's a lack of precedence. And again, when you think of social media really still being in a infancy, I guess it's a little older now. 10 years of Facebook, and many years now with Twitter and different social media applications. We're starting to see a lot more legal cases and things being tackled. But I still think there's a large area of things that are not really decided. I now shift over to opportunities and threats and the external factors. The opportunities, they're the relationships you can build. The additional education you can receive through networking and then through advertising and there's just many opportunities in reaching an expanded audience. So many great opportunities with social media. Unfortunately, the threats, kind of keep us scared from tackling social media, or maybe we avoid social media with our pharmacy or as a pharmacist because of these threats. And that's, maybe there's a financial threat, maybe the threat of being, sued legally, so we're worried that, or, from another financial perspective, the brand protection. What if you say something that really damages your brand? And again, personal threats. So, I use myself as an example of times where I've put myself out there and put myself at risk for losing a job or whatever. I think it's important to consider. So, again, from a business standpoint, you've always got to think of the SWOT and the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Think of the strategy that your business is going to have and what social media can offer, and can you weigh the benefits and the opportunities? How do those weigh against the threats? And how? So based on the information you're putting out there, what's the threat that you could be sued? What's the threat that you could harm your company's finances, and then what are the benefits, and just weighing that risk to benefit ratio. All right, so let's start wrapping up section 2, and we'll end with a case and maybe a question or two in general about social media. So, JM is a 26-year-old pharmacy manager for a Fortune 500 company with social history of dating, dancing at parties, and performing keg stands with friends in college. Positive for Facebook and Twitter accounts. Recently experiencing an increased need to share opinions through tweets and status updates. Aggravating factors include pressure from corporate initiatives, abuse from angry customers, involuntary anorexia, and forced urinary retention. Now, for those of you who work in a pharmacy and have worked with several pharmacists, you may know this person. This person may be someone that you've met before. And again, if anyone who's worked in a stressful environment, you start thinking, well, what are the benefits of social media for a pharmacy manager in this case? And what are the risks? So if we think about this particular pharmacist, what do we think? We think, man, so this guy has a history of of just like any other college student, just about, maybe they love to dance at parties, and maybe they've done a keg stand or two, or they've used maybe have had some experience drinking a little bit in college or whatever. In those, so what are the risks of maybe those pictures still being out there, maybe on Facebook, and how will that look if one of their patients from their pharmacy sees that? Do they lose confidence in them as a pharmacy manager? What about the recent activity of the corporate initiatives? They're starting to get a little burnout from their job. Maybe they're being dealing with these angry customers, and they're not able to eat, and they can never go to the bathroom while they're in the pharmacy. So what risk do we have if they have their cell phone in their pocket of them sending out an angry tweet, in a moment of anger? What are some repercussions, from the employer, if they start expressing opinions, saying, "Gosh, I hate this company. They never, I can never go to the bathroom." Blah blah blah. What could that do? Could that end up costing this pharmacist their job? So, which of the following is a potential threat to a business with employees on Facebook? So, which of the ones is a threat to a business? The increased employee productivity, employees' friends liking the company products, employees communicating outside of the workplace, damage to the company brand, or all of the above are potential threats. And so I hope that you guys would think that, obviously increased employee productivity sounds crazy, because I don't see how Facebook in most cases for a pharmacy employee at least is going to increase their productivity. If you find that study where Facebook improves productivity for pharmacists, let me know. What about friends liking company products? That seems to be an opportunity more than a threat, right? Employees communicating outside of the workplace, I guess that could be a threat. But in a lot of cases, just because they're communicating outside of the company, out of the workplace, how's that any different, with Facebook than it would be before Facebook, when people would just meet up for happy hour? So I don't think that's a good answer. And what about damage to the company brand? Now this sounds a little bit more like, and obviously if I've crossed off some other answers, then that's not correct. So damage to the company brand. And we got one more question. So which of the following makes social media preferable to traditional media outlets for business advertising? Simple to use. What do you think? Social versus having to do a commercial or publish in a newspaper. Yeah, it's probably simple to use. Audience potential. Traditional media markets have a lot of potential, but social media for the cost, this may be good. We'll think about that one. Low cost. Yeah, it's definitely low cost. Few barriers to entry. Absolutely, anybody can do it, right? So if multiple of these several of these are right, then that should let you know that all of the above as an option is going to be correct. So anyway, that kind of concludes our social media topic, and hopefully some of these questions and some of these things were helpful. Here are some references, and again, if you want to check out, this I really recommend too. Checking out Task Force on Professionalism, Dr. Kane's article on Dr. Kane and Romanelli, their article on e-professionalism back. That was one of my favorites. Anyway, you can see I've kind of quoted Jeff on a few things. I think he's got some pretty good stuff out there in the area. So if you guys are interested in social media, definitely recommend looking into it further, and chat with me if this is something you're interested in working on or researching. I'd be happy to talk with you. Hope that was helpful. And I guess I'll see you guys in class.